Well, Carter lied a second ago. He said that Ron Paul was the only one who talked about the Fed, but Rick Perry did it one time. Don't you guys miss that guy, Rick Perry? No, come on. I mean, because sometimes when they're having a debate, I think, gosh, I miss Rick Perry. He was so good for a chuckle. You know, wasn't he good for a chuckle in the debates? I miss that guy. Anyway, well, here's another guy who's good for a chuckle. This is Bill Green. He is our District 9 coordinator for the campaign, and he's going to come talk to us and give us some good information.
No, please, no, thank you. Hi, I'm Bill Green, and I am District 9 coordinator. I'm also a state co-coordinator for Georgia for Ron Paul. And the first thing I want to do is encourage every single one of you, if you have not done so yet, go to the Georgia for Ron Paul website, which is GA4ronpaul.com. And you can get information there, but you can also click on the volunteer link and just put your information in for us. And what we'll do is put you right into the loop. Tomorrow is not the end of the Ron Paul campaign in Georgia. Tomorrow is, in fact, just a little portion of what's been going on in the campaign for this state. And it goes on from here because one of the things that Ron Paul has been talking about for quite some time, very openly, is a fact that a lot of people just don't get. And that is that the nominee for the Republican Party is not chosen in the ballot booth. The nominee is chosen by people, real live human beings called delegates at the Republican National Convention. And people become delegates at the county, and then at the district, and then at the state, and then people get elected to be delegates to the National Convention. And that's who Ron Paul is filling his people up with, as Carter was talking about, in especially the caucus states. But it's a strategy that we're employing here in Georgia too. So I want to encourage you that you can get involved still in the campaign and in the process. If you are here and you're not fully decided on who you support for president, then I still encourage you, go to the Georgia for Ron Paul site, check out stuff about Ron Paul there. You can go to his national campaign website as well. We got a ton of information back here that you can look at and talk to any of us, and we'll be glad to tell you about his different positions. Just a little self-story. Because I was listening to a number of different people talking all over the place about how they first heard about Ron Paul. And, it's funny, if you sit down and you talk to people, that is, if you're forced to at some point have to sit down and talk to somebody in the Republican Party itself, one of the things that you get is when you're talking to a Santorum supporter or a Gingrich supporter or a Mitt Romney supporter, and you say, well, how did you first hear about Mitt Romney? Well, I mean, I don't know, I guess on TV or something, or I just kind of heard about this guy, that guy, whatever. But you ask somebody, how did you first hear about Ron Paul? And people can tell you, because what happens is Ron Paul starts talking about things, and it's not about the man, it's about the message that he delivers. It's all about freedom and liberty and personal responsibility. And what happens is people hear Ron Paul speak, and they go, what? And a light bulb, it's almost like you can see it pop on above people's heads. And that's one of the reasons a very familiar saying in the Ron Paul campaign is you don't hear people talk about someone who used to support Ron Paul. People come in and the light bulb turns on and they realize here's a guy that has been consistent for decades, for over 30 years now, saying the same thing, predicting exactly what has come to pass in both the economic and the foreign policy realm, all these things, and it's what we're seeing happening now. And he's still saying the same thing, still putting forth the same warnings, and still offering the same common sense solutions to every one of these problems. And I know that that's a fact because personally, somebody says, well, how did you first hear about Ron Paul? Well, I was in grad school in 1987, and you're just an old fart, aren't you? Yeah. So there I am. I was actually active in the Libertarian Party at the time, and our nominee suddenly became Ron Paul, former U.S. Congressman Ron Paul. And I said, okay, well, that's our party nominee, we're Libertarian, let's go, woo! We brought him in. I headed up North Carolina Students for Ron Paul, and we brought him into North Carolina to speak, and he gave this speech, and it was almost the same speech that he gives today. He was saying the same things and giving the same warnings and offering the same solutions that were just common sense solutions. It's just that some names have changed since that time. But now what's happening is people have picked up and they're realizing this guy was right. This guy was right all along. We need to listen to this guy and do what he is proposing be done. And that's the challenge that every one of us that are in the Ron Paul campaign has had, is just spreading the message, just getting the word out. And as people hear about it and they realize there is something different going on here, and it's not just Republicans that we're talking about here, tons of independents, tons of Democrats that are completely disillusioned and disaffected from Barack Obama, because Obama came in saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to withdraw our troops and bring them all home and close Guantanamo, and I'm going to do these wonderful things to get the economy going again, and it was all bull. And people were realizing that it was bull. And they're saying, well, what's the solution then? What do we do? And here comes Ron Paul saying, here's the solution. And you look into it and you realize, that makes sense. That actually does. This isn't just empty promises we're talking about here. This is reality. These are things that could actually work because it's real life. It's the way life actually works. We're not talking about economics that a professor has put forth as saying, in theory, this is the way. No, we're talking about how life actually works, how real economics, free market economics actually works. And that's what people are turning on to, and turning on to as economics and turning on to as foreign policy, because they're not different from each other. They're the same. All it boils down to is obeying the United States Constitution and supporting individual liberty up and down the line 100%. That's what it's all about. So that's where I first heard about Ron Paul was 1987 when he ran for president the first time. After he ran for president, by the way, he didn't win. I don't know if you knew that. But he went back into the Republican Party and ran for Congress again, got elected again. I followed him back in at that time, 1990. So I got involved in the Republican Party, the point being to change one of the major parties from the inside and actually return this particular one back to its principles that it had said it espoused of free markets and limited government and fiscal responsibility. And so followed him back in, and that's where I've been. I'm one of those establishment insiders, and yet I'm a Ron Paul supporter, which makes me a complete outsider, apparently, within the party that I've been in since 1990. So all that to say, talk to people that are Ron Paul supporters and just ask them, how did you first hear about Ron Paul? And you get great stories. I love hearing people's stories about where they heard about Ron Paul, what made them. People 4 years ago that said, I was just watching the Republican debates. And, they were all saying the same old crap that all of them always say. And then Ron Paul came on. And suddenly, it was like that light bulb goes off, and people go, whoa, what was that all about? And you pay attention. And again, it's not just the man. I thank God that particular man, Ron Paul, is the one who is carrying this message right now. Because, man, this guy is great. He's not presidential in his delivery. Yes, he is. You know why he is? Because the president is the one that supports the United States Constitution, and he's the only one running that actually does that. He's it. I honestly don't get, and this may be one of the reasons why my friends, longtime friends in the Republican Party, why they get a little bit upset with me sometimes, because I honestly don't get how they're supporting people like Santorum and Gingrich and Romney. I honestly don't understand it, especially people that are involved in the Tea Party. I mean, I have been very active in the Tea Party. Of course, Ron Paul supporters started the Tea Party in 2007, but it's sort of been hijacked. But I was very active in it when it was actually supporting these principles of limited government, free markets, and fiscal responsibility. What's happened is there's been a takeover of neoconservatives that aren't saying those things anymore, or they say them and they just obviously don't mean it. Because now I talk to my Tea Party friends and they'll say, well, I'm supporting Gingrich, I'm supporting Santorum. And my response to them is, then get out of the Tea Party, because you don't believe in it anymore. Because those guys sure don't believe in those principles of limited government anymore, and that's what the Tea Party was all about originally. Then it became this weird anything. So what I want to leave you with here is something pretty simple. Everything boils down with the Ron Paul campaign. Everything boils down to you. It boils down to you as an individual. It boils down to you as an American under a basic law called the United States Constitution that is supposed to guarantee rights that we have, not because government gives us rights, but because we are born with those rights. We have them because we're human beings. So it boils down to you as an individual, you as an American under the United States Constitution, guaranteeing those rights, and you as a moral agent, you as somebody that needs to step up and take responsibility for yourself, for your family, for future generations, because, I mean, I meet lots of young people that are supporting Ron Paul, and I've had to explain in a lot of interviews when people say, well, you know, he's the oldest guy running, how come he has so many young people supporting him? And my response is because young people understand how important this is. You know, young people have a lot longer to live than old people. I don't know if that makes any sense. But that means that they've got a whole lot of years ahead to have to put up with the crap that the old people have been putting on top of their heads. And so young people come in and say, this is time, we need to clear the field here, and we need to actually do the right thing for a change. And so, again, I thank God that the man, Ron Paul, has stepped up. He's taken the responsibility to deliver the message to America, and that message doesn't end with this presidential run. I honestly believe in my heart that Ron Paul can still be the nominee for the Republican Party. He's the only one that can beat Barack Obama. He's the only one that can restore America now, and I thank every one of you for getting involved. If you've got questions, just ask us, and we're going to move forward from here, and Ron Paul is going to be the next president of the United States. Thank you all so much. God bless.